a little background on myself. I won't spend too much time here, but who's this guy in the corner of his room talking to you? Well, I spent a little bit of time at Morgan Stanley working on analytics, and then after that, I decided I would join fashion, like everyone does. What a natural transition from banking to fashion. And I worked at a company called Edited, where we analysed massive amounts of online data to sort of predict fashion trends to stop the $4 trillion wastage there is in the fashion industry. So basically, the start of my career was very much data-centric. And then I got very excited by the things that we find in our pockets all the time, things we spend all our time on, mobile phones. And I was lucky enough to join a games company in Oxford called Natural Motion Games, where I worked on a cool game called CSR Racing. Some of you guys might have played it. It's a really fun racing game for your phone. That company actually exited and got acquired by Zynga. And I actually worked at Zynga on a game called Words with Friends. Hopefully that's something you guys have heard of or played or know someone that's played. And so you're probably thinking, what's the common theme here? Well, the common theme here is data and mobile experiences, right? So working out from data, how can you support product decisions using data, and how can you get those experiences to support those product decisions to people on a mobile phone? And actually, a lot of the time I spent working at Zynga was actually on, what do we build next, right? So we were actually putting adverts in front of people, and we were putting experiences in front of people to see where people really wanted to take the game next. And rather than us designing where we take the game next, we really wanted to make it customer-led. And I recommend any product development or business development is kind of customer-led. And with huge amounts of customers, you get huge amounts of data. So this is like the combination of all my experience and kind of why I'm really excited about mobile experiences, and I'm really excited about data. Okay, so what we're going to do in this workshop today is we're going to talk a little bit about why you need to validate your business idea. I'm going to introduce you to the concept of social intent testing. Maybe something you heard of before, maybe it's a new term. I'm going to talk about how you can build propositions. Again, maybe that's a new term, maybe it's a term you've heard before. I'm going to walk you through a thing called the ENF canvas, which is like a canvas that should help you think about proposition building. And we're going to workshop around a seed idea. So if we've got time at the end, or people want to stick on, we can actually workshop virtually and see if we can come up with an idea or build a concept really quickly. And finally, I want to show you, it's a little typo there, but I want to show you how you can build an idea in Faraday in an hour. So, test and launch this idea really, really fast. Okay, so creating new products is really hard. I'm sure you guys have run into this already, and if you haven't, it's a hell of a journey. It's a fun journey, but it's a tough one. And actually, the sort of scary stat is 85% of products fail in the first 2 years of launch. So this is a Nielsen stat. They looked at all consumer goods and they looked at launches, and actually a lot of them fail 2 years after launch, and only 15 of them survive. So how do we change this dynamic? How do we eat into that 85%? How do we make sure we're the 15 and not the 85, right? How do we change this over? And there's a similar sort of stats on startups. Loads of startups fail, and often they fail because there's no market need for the thing they're building, or they run out of cash. And I kind of feel like these first two are so interconnected with each other, which is basically there's no product market fit for the concept. Customers didn't really want it, or they didn't want it at the price point that had the right unit economics for your idea. So how do we change this? Well, there's a bunch of tools we can use to look at market demand. I'm not sure if you guys have come across Google Trends. It's a great tool. Try it out. See if there's market demand for your idea. This is basically looking at search volumes to help you understand, are people actively searching for this stuff? Is there a trend? Is this a trending upwards? Is there growing market share for this concept? So here I'm looking at two examples. I'm looking at oat milk and almond milk. You can see if you started an oat milk business at the end of 2016, 2017, you would have just caught the start of this growth curve. If you started seeing this curve go up, and you did it in the middle of 2018, you still have a massive business, I think. And actually, I think if you started a business in oat milk right now, you'd still think you'd have a great business, because it's on the upward trend, and I think it will overtake almond milk, or at least get close in the coming years. So this type of analysis can help you see if there's market demand for your concept, see if people are searching for this term. It's a nice, quick way to do it. And if you've not tried the tool, try it out. Great little tool. The other ways people do it is they look at things like surveys, user interviews, landing page tests, and social media tests. So hopefully you guys can see that, all that screen on the whole way to the right there as well. The first two have been around for some time. There's lots of good things about them, but there's also lots of problems. So surveys, often you've got to watch out for the audience you're sending them to. Often you can send these surveys to paid audiences. There are people that are being paid to complete them. You got to watch out for that, because that could really affect your results. You have people just clicking through to kind of get paid. User interviews are fantastic, but current climate is very hard to do that type of research. Landing page tests are cool and kind of a new thing. Sort of the last 2 years they've been around. You see a lot of sign-up pages and a lot of people testing landing pages. And the final one, the social tests, where people are sort of putting stuff on social media and seeing how they respond, is kind of growing as well. It's been really big the last year, as Stories has put more and more features into the story experiences. But where we get really excited is when you combine the last two, right? So the last two are really digital and they're quite cheap to run, and you can hit a very relevant audience quickly, right? So when you combine those last two techniques, you get a technique which we call social intent testing. And social intent testing is basically an Instagram ad where you advertise your concept in its rawest form, and behind that ad is a landing page that helps people sign up. So let me just go through that a bit more detail with you. So you really want to explain the ad in the rawest way possible. Obviously, design is important, but as you can see from this advert, design doesn't have to cost you the earth. This is a very basic asset and a very basic text overlay. But you're really trying to drive people towards what the proposition is. Is this something that interests them? Because if it's something that interests them, then it's something you can probably turn into a business. So this is a really cool test that we ran at Founders Factory for monthly travel subscription business. And users would see this ad, click through to a sign up page and sign up. And actually we got such good kind of hit rates on that proposition that this turned into a business, and then now is a startup called BRB Travel. So this is a startup that started off as an intent test. It got the right KPIs and it got the right sign-up rates for Founders Factory to invest in it. And based off that investment, it's now turning into a Series A startup. So, great example of a really basic ad going from an ad and an intent test all the way through to a business. And Founders Factory have kind of been doing this process for some time. And that's when I sort of got brought in to sort of productize and maybe turn that process into a company. And that's kind of what Faraday is. But hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully you guys get what social intent testing is and why it's a little bit different to the traditional social ads and the traditional landing pages. So here's another explanation of it, just to kind of hope it hits home for you. So say we wanted to create a new product or a new idea that we wanted to validate called Early Years, which is about educating kids through music, right? So the ad on the left is what you'd see on Instagram. So we could set that up quite quickly. Got some basic branding there. It didn't take us more than an hour or two to put some basic branding together. We put some stock imagery with the creative and we wrote down the proposition. And then behind the ad, we designed a micro landing page, which is basically the ad again, with some extra details to get people to sign up if they're interested in it. And actually, you really want to not trick people here. You want this to be honest. You want people to really understand what they're signing up for, because then you'll get a true indication if your idea has strength, right? So the more you trick people, the more you're sort of diluting the test. So you need to be really honest with the test, and you need to be really honest with what you're saying in the proposition text. So basically what happens here is people flow into the ad, and then people flow out at the end of the end, right? So if we spend, let me just minimize the screen here. So if we spend £100 on advertising, how many people are going to go through this kind of two-stage funnel? How many people are going to react to the advert? How many people are going to react to the landing page and sign up? So if we got 20 signups, that would give us a CPS of £5. So that would be pretty promising, right? So for £100 ad spend, we were able to secure 5 signups for this concept. And now that we've got these basic economics, we can actually do some cool things where we can actually try different types of proposition, different types of creative, and see how our CPS changes. See if the CPS rises or lowers. And that's a really cool way to see which of these proposition ideas we should go through first. So for a small amount of spend, you can get quite cool, clear signal on if there's a sign up intent for your idea. Okay, cool. Hopefully that all makes sense. Is there any big questions here so far? I can maybe look at the comments or any questions. Cool. Is Google Trends free? Yes, Google Trends is free. You can use it today. Yes, we're recording. Cool. What are good landing page click-through rates? Okay, great question. So yeah, so 35% is a great one. Anything from 10 to 40, I think, is really good. 20 plus, I think, is really good. I think a lot of this depends a lot on your unit economics of your business. So, you know, if you were building a high cost proposition and your CPS was £25, but the unit economics of your business is that would yield a £100 sell, then maybe a £25 CPS is great, right? So I think using the CPS to sort of work out your unit economics backwards is a kind of nice way to sort of work out what the right numbers are for your business. Cool. Good question about designing your ad. I think Josh can probably add a bit more about this. He's a design lead on Faraday, but I think one of the things that we've found so far is, particularly on Instagram, people love people. It really enjoys people. You know, people like seeing other people in their concepts. And what we've also found is basic text overlays like this one here go a long way, right? So a cool graphic with some text overlays goes a long way. So they're kind of 2 little snippets so far. You can do this type of testing on any social media platform. Faraday currently only runs on Instagram, but I want to teach you guys this technique. And if you want to use Faraday, you can, but if you want to do it yourself, you can as well. So currently, Faraday is just Instagram based, and we're looking to expand to things like Facebook and Snapchat in time. Okay, cool. So hopefully that will make sense. Some good questions through the chat, so thank you for those. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about a cosmetics example. So on a cosmetics example, we've been working a lot with brands like L'Oreal and Lego, and I'm just going to move this to one side a second. I'll come back to it in a minute. We've been working with brands like L'Oreal and Lego, and I want to show you an example of like how you can use this technique to sort of range find where to spend your time, right? So maybe this is more important if you've got a slightly larger budget, but I still think it's an important technique just so you understand the dynamics of this intent testing. So I'm going to walk you through a cosmetics example. The cosmetics example here, we're going to use the same creative. It's a very basic creative, and we're going to use the same concept brand, Ritual Beauty, in every single test we do. So it's all the ads are going to look a little bit like this Instagram ad we have at the top. But actually what we're going to do is we're going to change the proposition quite radically, right? So the image is going to say the same. The concept brand is going to say, change the product and the feature combinations. So with 3 different product types, I think the product types are things like cleansing mask, face oil, moisturizing cream, and 5 different trends: lab grown, antioxidant, naturally occurring, probiotics. We can actually create 15 different variants, right? 3 times 5, 15. And we can give each of those variants a £60. So super low budget, but we're trying to test lots of different variants. So you can test 15 different product variants, and then this took 36 hours to run. So it didn't take 36 hours to set up, it just a few clicks to set up, but it takes 36 hours to run. So this is happening in the background. And then it reached 128,000 people on Instagram. That's the impressions, all the ads collected. So that's the number of people that saw it on their feed, somewhere on their feed. And we spent £1,081. This was a pilot we did for L'Oreal. So that might sound expensive for an entrepreneur. For a corporate, that's tremendously cheap because they're spending 10 times that on a 5-person focus group. Right? So the unit economics for this type of research is way, way cheaper than it is for traditional research. Okay, so here's the results. Hopefully you guys can get your head around this mega grid of numbers. Each row here represents a product type. So we've got face oils, cleaning masks, and daily moisturizing cream. And each column represents a feature, a feature that we decided to highlight. All the numbers are in triples, right? So there's a CTR, there's a CPC, and there's a cost per lead per square. So you can see kind of some nice clear patterns here. What do people think is the kind of patterns that jump out? Maybe people can answer on the chat or call out. I don't mind. Patterns are that you see in this data here. Is there anything that's kind of deadly obvious to people? Yeah, I mean, the probiotic and packaging is kind of really good, right? And the other thing that's kind of obvious from the data is that lab grown is kind of not very popular anymore, right? So I guess lab grown, like a few years ago, or maybe 5 or 6 years ago, would have shown a sign of kind of quality. But now I think in the cosmetics world, lab grown really represents something that's a bit scary. So obviously the click rates are kind of low there. Oh, wait a second. Went the wrong way in the slide, sorry. Probiotic and reliable packaging sort of did very well. And then we have this kind of really weird number one downhill on the bottom left where we had a really cool click-through rate, but a really bad sign-up rate. So what was happening here is the ad was kind of appealing to people to click through, but they didn't really want to sign up to it. So this is where sign-up rates are kind of nice because it sort of stops just the happy clickers, and it actually sees if people really want to sign up to this concept. So that really helped us explain this process to L'Oreal and also help them derive direction for the next product line that they're working on. Okay, cool. So hopefully we all know why social intent testing is kind of cool, and hopefully we all know what people are doing. What people are doing and examples of what people are doing to sort of do this type of testing in the real world. Let me see if there's any other questions that have come in. Cool. What are the best days, hours to launch a campaign? I think it depends on when your audience is online, right? Like so. Put yourself in the shoes of your target consumer. So if your target consumer is a parent or a mum, those times might be very different to other times. So it's hard for me to give you like a definitive, like run it on a Tuesday at 5 p.m. It really depends on when your consumers are online. But the way that the ad budget works is Facebook advertising should be pretty smart to this type of time stuff. And as long as you run things over multiple days, you should be okay to maximize hitting your target audience. What targeting did you apply? Cost per lead calculated. Okay, cool. So I'll answer both of those. So what targeting did we apply? So for this example, we applied some really basic targeting. I think we were looking at UK 18 to 45 females interested in cosmetics, dermatology, and skincare. So somewhat targeted, but we still had, I think, over 1 million potential reach on that ad campaign. I think trying to get a reach of 1 million is always a really nice goal between trying to get appeal and you also have enough filtering so you're not just blasting ad spend into the ether. Cool. Nick asks, what's the cost per lead calculated? So cost per lead is basically you put some money into the machine at the start. You work out how many people sign up, and then you divide the costs into the machine by the number of sign-ups, and you get EPS. So £100 divided by 20 sign-ups is £5. So it's pretty simple ad spend divided by sign-ups calculation to look at the complete funnel. Yeah, cool. How do people use social intent testing in conjunction with landing? Yeah, so you can, using these two together is not simple. Those tool hunt tools and a lot of the sign up page tools are really great because they have an audience that they project their ideas to. And if you're working on a digital product, I think Product Hunt is a really good place to launch your product because it has people that are product people, that has digital savvy people on there. If you're a consumer good product, I'm not sure Product Hunt is really the platform for you. I think something like Instagram or Facebook is probably a better platform. So people have used the tools together, but I think the hardest thing you'll find is a challenge that they call attribution. And attribution is this challenge where if you direct ad spend to a landing page and you can't attribute back where the signups came from, it's really hard to know how many of those signups that came in on day X were actually from the ad spend. So isolating the test and controlling it helps with the attribution process. So hopefully that answers your Product Hunt question. In the L'Oreal test, what happened to consumer click-throughs? So yeah, they weren't able to buy anything. They were just purely signing up to find out more. So we find that the sign-up rate is a proxy for purchase. So this allows you to see if there's interest in a skincare line, but before spending the 18 months building the skin, regulated, tested, and everything. It helps you understand if there's interest for it, and then you can maybe, because you've got those early people that have signed up, maybe you can send them samples or you can send them some information as you develop the product. But you're using the sign-up rate as a proxy for interest at the end of the process. CPS and cost per lead, yeah, it's the same thing. Cost per sign up, cost per lead, it's the same thing. You can use those two terms. You call it CPS, other people call it cost per lead. Yeah. Okay, cool. Really cool questions. Like that. Hope that makes sense. Thanks for sending them through the chat. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about building propositions. So maybe as we go through this part of the workshop, you guys can think about a proposition or a business idea you have in your head. This might be something that you've been thinking about in the Launchpad program, or is it something that you've kind of been thinking about yourself for a while? I'm going to walk you through the proposition building technique that we've been teaching people and see how it goes with you, and see if you have any questions from it. So just to get some terms right, we think about propositions and concepts in these three layers. We think about seeds, we think about ideas, we think about our propositions. So for us, a seed, so if you use Uber as an example, for us, the seed is disrupting city travel. So this is the top level, like, visionary thing that they're trying to achieve. They realize city travel is kind of broken. They want to try and disrupt it. So that's the seed thought. The idea is the thing that sort of solves this seed thought. And the idea here is you order taxis from your mobile, right? That's the kind of where Uber really kicked off. And the proposition, so the value gain to the customer, the thing that you want to tell the customer about, isn't necessarily the idea. So I think a lot of technical people, me included, always think about advertising the idea, but really what you want to advertise is a proposition. It's the gain that the customer gets from your idea. So when you're sort of advertising Uber, you really want to be saying things like never wait for a taxi again, get taxis come to your door, rather than saying it's a mobile app, it works this way, right? Like, so that frame of reference is really important, and marketeers are very, very experts at this. But for entrepreneurs that are multi-skilled, I would really think trying to explain your idea in terms of a proposition and not in terms of what the idea kind of is. really help your concept testing process. So another sort of set of terminology you can think of is the idea is the product or business idea, and the proposition is kind of like the pitch, right? It's the thing that sells the idea. So, okay, cool. So let's think about disrupting city travel. There's three examples here. Obviously, Uber is a great way to order taxis from your mobile. Lime is an on-demand mobile scooter company, and I'm not sure if you guys have seen CityPass, but it's a Citymapper have got this kind of contactless travel card pass. All of these ideas are trying to disrupt city travel. So if you had a seed idea, you could intent test these three different concepts to see which of these concepts had the most traction with consumers before sort of moving forward, right? So it's a great way to sort of see where the customer heat is on these three concepts. So hopefully that gives you an idea about testing across different, very drastically different ideas, but all connected to a seed vision. One of the things we get asked a lot was, me and Josh actually constantly battling about this. I think there's definitely like what I would call just enough design for concept testing. And here's a really cool example I wanted to show you. This is a brand called EasyKick. It's basically a shoebox with some trainers that they've bought from down the road, and a stick and A3 sheet to help you see how shoes size is growing. And the business model here is that it's a box for shoes for kids, because they're always needing new shoes because they're sort of growing so fast. And so with this kind of basic was really easy, for this company to do, right? Because with some basic branding, they were able to get this thing going, and then depending on orders, they were able to go and buy the shoes in box. So they could really conceive quickly, and they could really get this thing branded fast as well. Once they kind of knew that there was traction for this concept, and they knew they had some more money, the branding process, and understand who their real customer is, if it's worth spending large amounts of money on branding. The business that did this was actually Nike, right? So this is something that Nike actually did. They set up this thing called EasyKicks. They got huge amounts of traction from it, and then over time, EasyKicks rebranded itself to Nike Adventure Club. And if you go to the website in your spare time or later, incredible Nike branding, right? Like the videos and families. They didn't do that to try the idea out. They this basic EasyKicks concept, which is essentially a shoebox and some A3 sheets, right? So really cool example, I think, of like brand savvy companies spending time on branding at the start to get. I'll show you guys is the ENF canvas. So sometimes people have asked me, hey Matt, I really struggle to work out the text of the. I come up with some really cool marketing text for the propositions. I need some inspiration here. So we developed this kind of simple hack, which we call the ENF canvas. It thinks, so we're going to go back to the Uber idea again now, or the taxis, and it breaks them into emotional feature benefits, right? So emotional, are things that strike a chord with, like, feature-based benefits are, it does X, it does Y, it helps you do Z. It's almost like how it works. And then numerical-based benefits are things like it saves you certain amounts of time, or there's some sort of numerical gauge to like the benefit to you. So maybe you guys can have a think about each of those and what that means for Uber. But just to jump through, because it's hard to do remote. Some examples of emotional ones is like feel like a hero and arrive on time, right? Like it's how you feel using the product. No stress city travel. again, it's a feeling you get from the product. The feature-based ones here are more about how it works, right? You drop the pin and it comes to you. Split the fare with a friend. The like the core features in the product that make it a great product. And then the final one is like numerical gains, and you'd have to do some research to work out what these were. You can't fake these, but 30% faster than a taxi or 50% cheaper than traditional taxis. These are things that you can try with, and a lot of the time with intent testing is people are seeing which of these intents are causing the people to convert, causing people to sign up to your concept, right? Because if you've got a strong signal on one of these, that might really help you decide how to focus your product development, but also how to focus your branding, how to focus your business idea. If it was all about time savings and cost savings, you might build the product and the brand one way. If it's all about emotional gains, you might put the marketing material together in a totally different way. So hopefully this little thought canvas can help you work out how to do different types of proposition building for your brand, for your concept. Okay. Okay, great. So as kind of come to the end of the training part of the session, hopefully that's all makes sense and is good. I don't know how we should do this remotely now. It's sort of really tough. But what I was thinking of doing, and this might go wrong, we'll see how it goes, is if you guys put in the comments a business idea that you want me to test, what I was going to do is I was actually going to load up Faraday and show you how we can construct an intent test really fast. So you guys can get a visual idea of the speed at which you'd create the brand and the imagery. So in the comments, if you put a wacky idea, I might have a live go at trying to do that idea. And if no ideas come in, I've got a silly sock idea that we could do. A man's beauty brand that's easy to understand. Oh, that's great. Yeah, so B2B businesses, you can use this technique for B2B businesses. It's a lot harder. It's a lot harder, but it can be done. I don't know how I've drawn on my screen. I don't know how I did that. And the reason it's a lot harder for B2B businesses is that the volume you get through the process will be a lot smaller, right? So if you do this on consumer things, you're getting tens of thousands of people through the process, and the stats kind of help you. With B2B businesses, you might only be getting maybe 100 or 200 people through the funnel. You can still do the process. I would still recommend it, but the signals you're going to get are going to be weaker because of the statistics involved. Design your own earrings. Okay, cool. Thanks, Josh. Immune system support supplements. Yeah, that would be good for now. Subscription jewelry. Okay, jewelry's come up twice. Okay, let's work this out. Let's see if we can do this. So let's have a go at it. So this is me inside of Faraday. I'm going to use Faraday here to help you understand it, but really what I'm trying to teach you here is that with some basic imagery, we can go a long way, right? With the basic imagery and some basic text and some basic branding, we can go a long, long way. Cool, so I'm going to create an intent test. This new intent test, I'm going to create, let me just shrink this down. It's going to build this ad on the side, and then after the ad, it's going to have a landing page, very much like the example I showed in the deck. And then after that, it's going to have a success screen. So let me call this your subscription. This is just me naming the test. The brand I'm going to use for this, I'm not sure. Let's use the Franco one. I'm going to call it, and it's going to be like a men's men's jewelry proposition. I'm not sure if that's a thing, but let's see if it's a thing. Let's just test it with the market and see if there's a thing for this. And then I probably want to have some stock imagery here, right? So this is, so Unsplash is a really cool resource. We've got Unsplash integrated into the product, but it's a free resource, and I really recommend you thinking about it. Where is men's jewelry? Is a thing. Spell jewelry properly as well, that might help. This watch is kind of cool. Maybe I'll call this accessories rather than jewelry for men. So what's your advert copy going to be? Let's put this as like monthly updates on the best men's accessories. And then the headline on the next page, I want to be something kind of bold and like that really sells the emotional benefits of this, right? So maybe it's like, look smart all year round. And then the subheading here is get the best in fashion and discounts on designer accessories delivered to your door. I'm making this stuff up. You should probably spend a bit more time on this than I am now, but I think you guys get the process. And then the sign up call to action is like sign up. More information. Great way to see if there's an interest for this concept. And then once I've saved that, it's collected together, this ad and this landing page. You guys can go and do this on Facebook Ad Manager. You can go and build these landing pages on Instapage or Wix. I recommend you do them if you don't want to use the tool. But what Faraday does is it does this process for you, and it sort of like sends it out for you, and it manages all the attribution for you. But I do want to be clear, like this is a process you guys can undertake without this tool. We just made the tool to make it super easy for you to do. And so now we want to like target millennials, maybe young professionals that are male in the UK or in the UK, and they're interested in, I guess, fashion, but maybe they're interested in like, we're interested in travel. I don't know. So we save that group, and then we allocate some budget to it. So we've been talking about 75 or 65 pounds. Let's put 75 pounds in here. What these numbers here are showing us is if this does well on the on Facebook with that targeting, we could get somewhere between 3,000 and 11,000 impressions for that ad spend. Now, if the proposition resonates well, we'll get 1,000 clicks. But if it doesn't resonate very well, we might only get 37 or less than 50 clicks. And if the proposition resonates really well, we could get up to 37 signups. And if it resonates really badly, we'll probably get like 0 signups. So what we do now is like we'd publish this, and that would get sent off, and in 36 hours you'd get a report back telling you how well it's done. You can analyze the data yourself. You can look at the Google Analytics. You can look at the Facebook data and understand how it's going. And you get a report back like let me show you this example that's like this, and it shows you all these. It shows you all the stats, right? It shows you all the stats on how your idea is done, how many people came into the funnel, how many people clicked on it, how many people signed up, what was the sort of demographics of that sign up. And then it helps you here with like, in this very broad brush scoping, like where's your CPS? score? Like, is this like a really good one under 5, or is this a more expensive one over 20? And I think what this process is really good at is it's really good at showing you if you're like hot, medium, or cold on an idea, right? Is this idea something that no one really wants and it's like way up high, or is it something that's kind of in the middle, or is it something that's like less than £5 and people really want this concept? Okay, cool. So hopefully that explains how Faraday works, and how I guess what I was trying to show here really quickly was like how in a few clicks and a little bit of research and a little bit of branding, I was able to put together kind of like an okay looking ad and an okay looking landing page for this idea, right? And I think that's where we're trying to teach people here. Like MVPs are great, and we should all do MVPs. But before we do an MVP and before we invest lots of money in it, why don't we do an intent test to see where people, if there's a real intent for this thing? And so that's where I think this tool is great, and I think that's where this process is really changing the way people develop products, changing the way people think about product development life cycles. Okay, cool. So is there any question? Oh, I'll go back to the question board and see if there's any questions. But yeah, lots of participants, and hopefully you guys found that super useful. I'm going to just go through some of the questions now. I wish I could do this in person, but this is as close as I guess we get. So, these were all the cool ideas that came in. Cool. Josh has been answering stuff in the chat as well. Cool. If you have a product with potentially different demographics, do you separate ENF campaigns or initially try one product? I think I would, if you're an entrepreneur and you've got limited budget, I think I would try one broad campaign first and then tune it in afterwards. You really want to get a clear signal. Is this something that like no one really wants or people like? Yeah, cool. Manage expectations. This is obviously very dependent on you. In the T's and C's, it's very clear and says that the person is signing up for a concept that's in progress. But we really recommend that you at least close out the signups, right? So if you decide to not do that idea and do something different, you know, a nice email sent to them saying, yeah, thanks for considering this product. We decided not to pursue this, but we were doing this other thing. I think that's a really nice thing to do, and I would recommend doing that. I think it's just good. It's just good hygiene, and I think it's a nice way to engage the person in the next idea as well. Nothing's actually done in the product, but we recommend this is something that you should do as good product developers. Yeah, it's a reasonable thing that the idea could be good, but the image post may not be good enough to catch attention. Yeah, there's a very high chance of that, Ed. I think the way to think about that is you're going to have to get there soon, right? You're going to have to try and work out a way to proposition this idea. So trying out the propositions rather than spending years and years on an idea in kind of incubation and then launching it after all that time and effort is probably like the worst thing you could do. So there's definitely a chance, but I think the benefits of it outweigh the sort of risks of sitting on a concept for so long and not telling the world or trying it out with the world. But great question. Yeah, you can go straight to Facebook or Instagram, and Faraday is a tool to help you. You can do this process. Yourself using landing pages and Facebook and Instagram. One thing we found, and the reason we built the tool, was setting up those campaigns and linking them to the landing page and attributing and collecting all the data is not simple. It's kind of hard, and it's quite frustrating. So if you're skilled on that stuff, then yeah, you can definitely do it without the tool. But we found a lot of entrepreneurs are kind of scared of that stuff, and they find the tool really, really useful for them to get going. And we charge a pretty low fee. It's £50 a month to use the tool. You know, it's a basically time efficiency tool where we're trying to give you guys a tool to do this process quicker and faster, but it can be done manually outside of the tool as well. Not a stupid question at all, Natasha. A really good one. Okay, great. is there anything else people want to ask, or is there anything else? Josh is great at design. If you guys had any design questions, I'll throw you in there a bit, Josh. But hopefully it's been useful. Hopefully this can get you thinking about this intent testing technique as a technique to add to your arsenal, especially when you're really early in the idea generation phase and the business validation phase. I think the benefits you get from it, from testing with consumers early is huge, but the secondary benefits you get of like being able to describe your concept in a different way that consumers understand is huge, right? So it's like really cool secondary benefits to the process, as well as the primary benefits of getting a cost per lead, unit economics number. I'm not a big expert on LinkedIn. Quite a few LinkedIn questions come through. I think LinkedIn generally is a lot more expensive. So I think if you're doing LinkedIn stuff and you're doing it on a budget, I would think about doing organic LinkedIn posts rather than paid media on LinkedIn. So for organic posts on LinkedIn, what you can do is you can post stuff on your own account and tag certain hashtags and see how well that responds. You can do paid advertising the same way, but the costs are so high that you might find the economics of that paying campaign quite hard. Josh, you got a question on emojis in the copy.
Hello, can you guys hear me? Yep, great. So what do you think about the use of emojis in the copy? Totally fine. Wouldn't really recommend using them within the lead form itself, but within the ad pitch, me and Matt are quite big on mobile culture. So tapping into like people are used to sort of emojis, GIFs, memes, that sort of thing. So I definitely wouldn't be afraid of using emojis. Just use them sparingly. People can be a bit slap hazard with using too many. So just a light touch, I think, goes a long way.
I think there's a really cool tone of voice article by the guys at Monzo, and they talk about appropriate use of emojis. I really recommend it. I think it's publicly available article called the Monzo tone of voice. It's great. It talks about copy and when you should and shouldn't use emojis when it gets too much. So it's worth checking that out. I think have we ever worked with customers who are worried about IPR? I guess this is like losing their IP because they've widely disclosing an idea concept in your test. It's come up a few times. There seems to be in certain organizations there seems to be two factions. There seems to be the like agile, learn fast, quick, let's use data to make decisions, and there tends to be the sort of more worried, our ideas are sacred and we shouldn't tell anyone about them until they're perfect. I think every organization has its own DNA, and we found that there's a mixture. And I'm of the sort of lean startup agile mentality, but totally respect other companies that decide to do it a different way. It really depends culture to culture, company to company. Organic campaigns. I'm not sure how I can give you advice on organic campaigns. I think organic campaigns, just think about content that explains your proposition and content that people really want, and be genuine with the content, right? So I think one of the biggest trends we're seeing, particularly at the moment on all social media, is being genuine, explaining to people what's happening when they click on things, what's happening when they sign up to stuff, and explaining to them why you want to make the thing that you're making. There's a really nice idiom that I heard recently, like make products you love for people you love. I think that's a really cool idiom. And that often comes through when you explain your product to other people, whether it be in copy or verbally. Do we expand it? Yeah, so we do. Deanna, I think we'd love to know what countries you'd like us to add next. We've just added those countries just because our T's and C's are currently UK and US based. but yeah, we're looking to add more and more countries onto the service. There's no reason why we can't. It's based off Instagram advertising, and that's pretty much everywhere now. I'm not sure if it's in. I'm not sure if it's in certain markets, but it's in a large number of markets. Okay, cool. Hopefully that's useful. How many people maybe like show of hands or something like are actively working on an idea today and think this intent testing might be a process that they put in place? Like, is this something that people understand or are skeptical of? I'd love to know from a general poll, like if this is something that people get and if they would use it, or if it's something that sort of scares them a bit. Got 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so maybe like 50%. Yeah, okay, cool. I'm glad you liked it. Yeah. Brain Hack. Yeah, Brain Hack was fun. I saw that one come through. I think that did really well. So I'm glad you're using it already. I'm glad it's useful, and hopefully this has been practical stuff that you guys can apply. Thanks for hanging out on a Wednesday in this weird time that we have at the moment. And Josh and I are available. My email's matt@getfaraday.com. Josh's is josh@getfaraday.com. Please email us if there's anything about this stuff. We're really excited about this. We have the strong belief that if you test things with customers quickly and early, you can actually make products that people really love. And that's kind of like our mission. So hopefully this was useful. And thanks for the time, and thanks for inviting me to be one of the first to do this. It's great fun.
Thanks, Matt and Josh. Really appreciate it. And thanks from all the Launchpad team. I think Ido is unmuting.
Hey guys, thanks. I think it was a great workshop. I hope everybody found it useful. We're gonna keep these going. Hopefully, at least once a week. Stay tuned. And like I always say, we really like feedback. So just go ahead and pass it along, either for us or for Matt and Josh at Faraday.
We'll work on getting recording up. It's my first time doing something like this, so give me a bit of time, but I should get it up online fairly soon. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.